Hello and welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Abbie Richie, and you can find me here every Tuesday engaging with people who are involved in the senior living age tech space. Now, before we get started and I bring on my somewhat guest, I'm going to go ahead and run the intro. Welcome back to Tech Tuesday. I want to go ahead and invite my guest on today. So, Farah, come and join us. Thank you. Thank you. And you probably already know Farah, but in case you don't, Fara Gold McLaughlin is the Chief Revenue Officer at Senior Living Foresight. And today we're going to switch roles. So, instead of me interviewing her, she's going to interview me. Okay, so Farah, take it over.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you, Abbie. Thank you for sharing your show. And I think what we're really excited about at Senior Living Foresight is helping investors, owners, operators really understand the value of this tech for good sector and how, Abbie, you are transforming the lives of residents and certainly operators in helping seniors and their residents adopt tech. And that is making such a difference. I'd love to sort of start our conversation with what does it mean to be a tech advocate? And maybe you could share with our audience how you got started and started your incredible Senior Savvy, seniorsavvy.net if we need to find you. But kind of if you could start that original story about what got you engaged in helping seniors with tech.
Well, it's about 5 years ago, I found myself unemployed. The company I was a partner in dissolved, and I am only interested in doing things that I am passionate about. And nothing was really panning out for me. So I just kept trying to apply here and there. And again, nothing was panning out. So I just decided in the meantime, until I find the right thing, I'm going to serve. What that means is when people have a need, whether it's through my church, in my neighborhood, my community, whatever the case is, I'm going to serve them. Because I find that when I serve, I take the focus off of myself and everyone is helped by the exchange. So just about that time, my in-laws downsized. They moved from a house to a smaller house. They all have always needed help with their technology and their cable and their phones. And then their neighbor needed some help. And then their neighbor needed some help. And I found myself again and again helping and serving this group of older adults with their technology. Now, I've always loved being around older people. I grew up with my Nana and Papa, and I have a deep love and admiration for older adults. I just love being with them. I happen to think they are the best generation. So this was a really natural fit for me to be helping them and also teaching them technology. I was very involved in education prior to starting Senior Savvy. And so on one very cold day in January here in Arizona, I decided, you know what? I like this. I really like this. And I'm wondering if I can make a thing of it. So I called the 5 senior living communities in a 5-mile radius of where I live in Scottsdale. And I offered a free workshop on cell phone secrets for seniors. Now, seriously, I made that up. I didn't have it written. I didn't even know what I was going to, it just sounded good. And I like alliteration. So I called them, and by the end of the day, I had 3 bookings. And by the end of the week, I had 5. And so I started teaching these classes at different senior living communities in my area. I'd offer the free workshop with the hope that I could get private clients, with the hope that the community would want to have a weekly workshop. And it worked. It really worked.
I love it. I
I
love
want
it,
to tell you.
Abbie. I mean, we just obviously Happy New Year 2023 to all of our viewers. And most of you know that I'm a resident in independent living. So I'm working and living what we do every day. And like you talked about, Abbie, what I've seen here is many of my neighbors fellow senior residents have new gadgets, brand new iPhones, brand new cell phones, brand new iPads. And interestingly enough, because you bring a heart for service, many of my fellow neighbors don't want their children
Mm,
to be the ones to teach them how to use their new devices.
yeah.
They want to remain that parent. They want to remain mom or dad and still have that sense of, independence. So could you talk a little bit about, again, as you created Senior Savvy, what is a tech concierge? What exactly do you do in terms of that tech concierge to support community residents?
Okay, so let's talk first about the tech concierge role. What we do is we are the bridge between the resident and the staff. That's what we're doing as a tech concierge. We are a point of reference that a community can reach out and contact us, and we will come and help them. And so the reason that this is so important, so crucial right now, is that when you don't have this in place, what happens is you start using your staff that's not skilled to do this work. And that takes them away from doing what they're excellent at. And now, additionally, a lot of older adults, they may, like Melinda, thank you, they may say that they don't want to rely on their children because their children are not patient. Their children are not compassionate, and their children are not simple, right? Um,
Well, and that takes us to that topic we've talked about around ageism. How do we preserve the dignity? And that's a cornerstone of so many operators wanting to preserve dignity.
yeah,
And this is a way that you get to preserve dignity for the residents, as well as that ripple effect of satisfaction that a family feels when their mom is or dad are adopting those new gadgets, those new toys. And then to imagine the staff feeling supported.
yeah.
I want you to expand a little bit on that idea around the way you structured your services at Senior Savvy, because I do think it's different, and I can only speak to the workshops I've seen in many communities that maybe are held once a month for an hour. But your services actually provide that hotline, so to speak. Could you talk a little bit more about what that means? When someone hires or is looking to hire a tech concierge, it may not be your company, but if they're looking, they should be listening and looking. Could you tell us a little bit more about what it means for a resident to call or reach out to you and your team?
So the thing that Senior Savvy does, it's different than, say, an IT company or an IT person, is that we love working with an older adult. That's very different than a grandchild or an adult child can do. We're patient. We are basic. We keep things simple. And I really
Mm,
want to focus on that point right there. A lot of people will make the mistake of speaking in complicated terminology, telling you way too much than
yeah.
what you need to know in order to learn the basics. And that's something that we always focus on is the basics. Because a lot of times when you're given something, you're just expected to know what this is, what this is, what this is. Just you hand it to you, just like they give you the baby in the hospital and say, go on home, right? But with
Right.
our devices, there's no longer a manual. And many of my students are traditional learners and they want to learn the basics. So what we focus on, which is different than a lot of other companies and tech support um, programs, what we focus on is the basics because we know that when an older adult has the foundational knowledge about the device that they're working on, that they then feel empowered and confident to continue learning on their own.
Isn't this exciting to see some of our comments today around, building confidence? And, when we think about our senior living communities, it really is about living, thriving, being well. And to be able to have a service like seniorsavvy.net, take a phone call. I know there are many other types of technology. The other part I thought maybe you could share with is because so much of senior living now is dependent upon engagement platforms or communication, that is another way in which the staff can be supported. Could you speak to some of the programs that you support and maybe some of the ways the residents now are able to utilize those communication tools?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that different communities have different resident engagement platforms, and we've been able to help certain residents like Vic be able to find what's available on his calendar at his community so that he can sign up for activities. And we've also had other engagement platforms and residents using them, like Mary, when she was able to read the neighbor's bio on their engagement platform, she found out that they grew up in the same city. And then, there's also George. George is able to use his engagement platform to sign up and make reservations through the
Yes,
platform.
makes the,
So,
I know for me as a resident, I'm using a resident engagement, and I feel, that that's my lifeline to what's happening. The concierge is often busy, taking deliveries from Amazon, and I don't want to necessarily bother her. And I see many other residents not wanting to do that. But maybe you could speak to, I understand you also have an extension of your services to help life enrichment and activities directors actually train them as well. Could you speak to what that looks like in your business and the value to the communities?
yes, absolutely. So it's one thing to have us there on site, and that's a great service. We do that with tech cafes at different communities, and it's almost like a genius bar for your community where your residents can go and sign up for a half hour and get help on that one question that they have. And but we always want to be teaching and training. So we came up with a program. It's called Tech Advocate. This is where we train your life enrichment director to teach your residents how to use their technology. We have a patented process, and we all already have about 52 weeks of classes that are going to describe how to use the basics.
Oh, I love that, Abby. I mean, when I think of so many other, as you said, tech support that may come in on a monthly basis, they are really just focused on sort of a passive come and visit my table. And you're taking it to the next level that enhance, because life enrichment and activities directors, they want to keep up with technology as well. So I love that you've extended it so that training the trainer.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, um, I know that what I hear a lot about is, oh my gosh, I have to change my passwords. It came up at lunch yesterday with
Oh.
two residents. And again, when you go back to what you started our conversation with around keeping it simple, can you kind of share a fun tool that, is very analog? So it's combining tech and analog that you use to help people remember their passwords.
Well, we do talk a lot about creating secure passwords. A lot of people have been getting hacked. I don't think anyone is immune from it. But one way that you can prevent your accounts from being hacked and being vulnerable is by creating secure passwords. And I always recommend that my students get a nice big password book like this one. It's 8.5 by 11. And you know what that means? That means it's hard to lose, because I have gone into so many residents' homes helping them find a password book that's small, like 3 by 5. It's fallen behind the desk, it's under the bed, it's in a stack of files. But this one is nice and big. And I'll actually put a link in the comments if you want to take a look at it. It's $6. It's on Amazon, and there's plenty of space to fill in what you need.
And I
So,
love that because on the front, it says, I love tacos.
yeah,
I think a lot of us are afraid in our apartments,
yeah.
maybe the housekeeper has access or maintenance. I can, I love tacos, or no one's going to open that up.
No one's
If
going to
it's in
open it
my
up.
little, if it's in my footstool, or if it's in my, night, nobody's going to open that up. And I think that's the other part, the vulnerability, and you talk about it a lot, is online, not in your community. So the vulnerability of being hacked is electronic and from phishing. Could you speak a little bit more to kind of that sense of when you meet with a resident? I know that you've shared so many stories with me, and I want our audience to really hear. I think you took at least a story I remember, someone that had not used technology,
Oh
went
yeah.
into their apartment. Could you speak to that and kind of share that story of really helping that resident just blossom, being able to use their, I think it was an iPad actually.
Yeah, I can really
Some
think of
good
dozens
stories.
of them, but I do have a student, her name is Martha, and she is every single week at my Tech Time with Abbie workshop. And she has told me many times, I always used to rely on my husband to do the tech for us. And now I can't rely on him to do that anymore. I have to figure it out. And it's from the workshops that she's been able to gain the knowledge and the confidence to do it on her own. And she always says, I want to know what I don't already know. That's what I want to learn. I want to learn what I don't already know. And so, again, we just focus on the basics. There's a lot of repetition, like Melinda said, and there's also a lot of encouragement. So, like, I always tell my students, you know what? This is not easy to learn. And once you learn it, they're going to change it all, right? With a new update, it'll be different, but it's good to remain flexible and confident, because when they're able to connect with their family and friends and continue doing the things that they love, that's all because they've remained in this ecosystem of tech. And that's reminding me, just yesterday, I have a community in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and they said, unfortunately, they're back on lockdown again. They're
Yeah.
taking all their meals in their dining room again. I mean, not in the dining room, but in their apartments again. But at least this time, they know how to get on Zoom, and they know how to have their book clubs on Zoom and their meetings on Zoom and their committee reports on Zoom. So for that reason, like, I am so thankful when I hear something like that.
I love that, Abby. I know you and I have talked about how your, seniorsavvy.net really took off and launched, with the unfortunate COVID pandemic. But it, again, allowed communities and operators to see that they needed those vital lifelines like a Zoom to connect folks. And now today, and so you mentioned you live in Scottsdale, but you have a client in Kalamazoo. Can you talk a little bit about, as a tech concierge service, how you are able to serve communities, many different types of communities around the country?
Yeah, so we do offer a weekly workshop. It's on Zoom, and we do these workshops on the basics, and it really gives people at any level the opportunity to start learning more about using their technology. In fact, later this month, we're going to do a whole week-long series on one of the engagement platforms, and every day of the week we're going to tackle a different gadget or gift that their residents may have received this year, and what they need to know about those particular um, devices.
Nice, nice. I know that we've talked before about how the power, and so the power of independence. As you know, I live in an independent living community, and yet, residents like me, I take medication. Many of our viewers know that I had a health crisis, and fortunately, it's just epilepsy. But I have to take that medicine at 7:30 in the morning and 7:30 at night. And so I've, through the encouragement of my husband, but also, Tech Concierge like you, have set those reminders on Alexa on my phone so that I don't forget. Can you speak a little bit to that power of helping residents stay independent through the use of technology? And I know you do that a lot, helping people stay independent.
Well, thank you. A lot of residents have this Alexa Dot, or maybe
Yes,
even the Echo Show in their homes, and they don't know what the heck to do with it.
right.
So we teach them what they would want to know in starting to use a digital assistant, and how much that will benefit you over time. I had a student named Mary who gradually started losing her eyesight just due to macular degeneration. But because we had been working on using Alexa for a while, she knew that she could start asking Alexa for the calendar of the day or what's on the menu. and or to call someone. And it's just huge when you give people the basic understanding, they're able to sort. But when they just see it in their apartment and they don't know how to use it, it doesn't do them any good at all. Also, that's a burden to place on your staff. And I
Yes.
know a lot of staff members have said to me before, they get stuck in the hallways. They're walking down the hall, helping one resident to the next, and then someone else asks them, "Can you help me? I can't get my email," right? Or,
Right.
"Can you help me turn this on? I can't figure out how to turn it on." Even the concierge at communities get asked regularly how to do certain things, and that places a burden on someone who really isn't knowledgeable or skilled to help a resident with their technology.
Oh, I think that is such an amazing point. I mean, again, I'm on the inside, right? I work and live in senior living. And an example this week, two residents approached my husband. Many of you know he's a retired electrical engineer. One was to try to manage the multiple devices to turn on her TV. And from Donald's perspective, it was easy, but the resident had been without TV for over 36 hours. And it was a simple fix. Another was a resident that didn't know how to put their new printer ink cartridges in. And as you said, the feeling of dignity for a person that's supposedly independent
Yeah.
that may just need a little support. And we know with our staff shortage and the operations, this is to me, a must have. When you have a tech concierge company like yours or others. So, if today an operator says, well, I already have a tech concierge, the things I would hope that they could ask are your company support in your, are they doing this type of, call-in service? Do they have train the trainer services? Are they focused on treating residents as adults
Yeah.
and not infantilizing them or not patronizing them? Are they keeping it simple? Those are some really key
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit about the staff and how staff feel? I know that you've interacted again in your train the trainer. Could you kind of give us some comments around what that's like for the staff to feel empowered?
Well, again, the educational model for teaching older adults how to use technology from doing the basics is the same approach that we take when we train the trainer. And we're going to teach them how to teach their residents how to use their technology. So they're relieved because someone is showing them what to do and how to do it for the optimal amount of success. So that takes a huge burden off of the staff of having to come up with curriculum, of having to come up with the lessons. So that's something we do. But I also wanted to talk about the Tech Concierge remote role that we offer at several communities, where your community can connect with us and let us know that Anna in room 225 needs help with her device. And so we will help residents remotely at various communities with their technology. So they have a direct point person to go to.
That's amazing. That
And
is amazing. So they feel like they can make a phone call, right?
yes,
Make a phone call. What would you say is the future? I know you're going to CES. What I want to share with our viewers and readers is how valuable you are to the senior living sector, in that you're staying very forward facing. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of your hopes and dreams for the future of senior technology and senior devices? Could you share that in your dream of going to CES and what the future looks like?
I have a dream. We
Yay!
will not need passwords anymore.
Wouldn't that
Can I
be
get an
nice?
amen? An amen to
Yes,
that?
I'm gonna give you an amen. The more Apple, I love Apple, so the more face recognition, if I could just have everything face.
Yeah. Yes. If we could simplify that, that would be an amazing progression for my students. Amazing, because so many of them get stuck on their reset password, reset password, reset password. So that's one of my big hopes when I go to CES, to see how age tech has evolved for senior living. That's really the area that I'm focusing on. I'm not going anywhere else except the age tech exhibit with the AARP.
Oh, that's fantastic. And, when I think about all the different technology, I have hearing aids that, really help me during my neurological challenge. And they have a great software program attached to my iPhone. But again, when you think about a resident trying to, no matter where they are, independent living, assisted living, in a CCRC world, it's our job is in management and operations to help them thrive with dignity. Um, and if they can't use that phone, truly thinking of the ripple effect from a hearing aid to a
Yeah.
communication device,
Yeah.
again, kind of thinking of the future of seniors and tech and age. Is there anything else that you'd want to add, for an operator today that may be hesitant that says, well, we can't afford, $200 a month or $300 a month. We can't afford it. But when I think about, well, you can't afford not to, when you think of the staffing, could you speak a little bit to how that cost benefit, totally outweighs that price point in hiring you?
Yeah, I always like to say to people, well, start small and then see what the impact is. So start with what you can do. If you can do 2 hours a week, do 2 hours a week. See how that offsets the pressure on your staff internally. So, there are other ways that we can help send you videos so that through your engagement platform, they're streaming through your platform. But again, I would say start small. Now, I want to answer something that Jesse asked about LastPass. Yeah, LastPass is great for all intensive purposes, but my students don't like it and they
Mm,
don't trust it. And if they don't trust it, it doesn't help them, right?
right.
So, and then the other thing and have found that people over a certain age don't want to store their passwords in a vault. The other thing that I want to talk about is the Apple Watch
Yes.
compared to a monitoring device like Life Alert. This is
Yes.
another thing that there's a divide that people don't want to wear the pendant because it has stigma around it. And
Yes.
so if they want to wear the watch, and there's a lot of reason why they would want to wear it, it's only as good as the person who's wearing it, right? And if
Right.
you're not wearing it, it doesn't do you any good. So fall detection is very, very important to me. There's the e-walker, which the world's first smart walker, Camino. I've never seen anything like that before. So I'm really ready to like have my mind blown and to see what type of technology an operator can use to create a better tech environment for their residents.
I'm just so excited about the future. As you know, I look at it from our industry perspective, but I represent, an aging senior. I'll be 62 in March. My husband's 68. What does it mean for us to age effectively, age well, age with dignity, age with independence? And we are well aware that technology will support us. I think going back to those reminders, I'd love for
Yeah,
us to kind of end with
yeah.
an experience that I've had recently where a resident's alarms were going off. And the resident came to a couple of other residents and said, can you turn this alarm off? And we said, well, what's the alarm for? And the resident said, well, my daughter set them. I don't even know what they're for.
Uh-huh.
And I love how you said, keep it simple,
Yeah.
that often with an Alexa, you can say, Alexa, remind me to take my medication. And the actual reminder will tell someone what it's for. Because in a world that's busy, could you speak a little bit to that kind of as we close, kind of that? And here you hear Alexa in the background wanting to remind me.
Why should I remind you?
I love it
She
that you
really
love
wants to help you because
it. She
you
does.
have established a relationship with her. And because of that, she knows what your needs are. And I constantly encourage my students to start using that device now while they can still see and they still have dexterity in their fingers because it will serve them so much later on. Whether
Sorry,
they can't
I'm having
see,
trouble
they can't
understanding.
type, they can't text. The digital assistant, I think, would be one of the things that would be so necessary as we age. Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
The digital assistant. That's amazing. Well, this is not the last conversation. You're with us for Tech Tuesday and Senior Living Foresight every Tuesday. But I'm so honored that I could interview you today, Abbie, and really share with our audience the value of the Tech Concierge. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Farah. And thank you, all of our participants today who have chimed in the chat. I love to see that. That energizes us and our conversation. So I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll see you back here next Tuesday.
That's right. And email Abbie at seniorsavvy.net.
There you
Thank
go.
you, Abbie.